Hi guys, welcome back. This is Matt Chat episode 557, featuring an interview with Max, who has done what might well possibly be the greatest feature-length documentary that's ever been done on the subject of the classic arcade game Sinistar. And now maybe you've heard of Sinistar, maybe you haven't. It's a great arcade classic. It's one of my earliest games, as we'll get into in this video. But you're going to love this documentary. Because for one thing, Sinistar is a really cool game with a really huge legacy that even I wasn't familiar with. But Max has gone so deep into this game, it almost defies belief. I mean, he has studied the assembly language, brought it back, brought in features that were taken out by the developers because they didn't have enough memory at the time to cram them all in. I mean, it's truly phenomenal work. So I know you're going to enjoy this and all the behind the scenes kind of stories we get into here with Max, aka SynaMax. The story behind that nickname is fun too. So watch this video, you'll learn all about that stuff. So we've got a lot to cover here. So without further ado, here is SynaMax.
Okay, that should be working now. Let's start again. Video.
There you go. We got it. There is no technical difficulty we can't overcome. Cyber archaeologist and all.
It's always working with IT, and at my day job I work with IT and everything, and
you have a day job?
Yeah. Yeah.
How the hell do you find time to do this documentary, man?
I ask myself that question every single day. Like, it was a lot of juggling of hats. I totally admit I bit off more than than I can chew. And
was it you doing this? You had some people helping, right?
Well, I mean, there was definitely a few people that helped, but sorry, it's a silly question. Are we so we're currently doing the interview live or everything? No pre-roll, or is it? Sorry,
we're not live, no, but
okay. I didn't know if you wanted to edit or stuff like that. So
I'm too lazy for that. I leave that sort of thing to you.
No worries. So I'm so used to reading off of the script and stuff and editing and everything.
Oh, I got you unscripted. Oh,
yeah, exactly. It's a side that I'm not, I'm still getting used to showing off and everything. But because I've just been overwhelmed with the positivity of the documentary and everything. It's been
about this a little bit, right? I don't know if there's like a screen I could show, but is there a cover page or something?
There's a thumbnail, but it's just sorry, one of our neighbors has got a car horn going off, so it's distracting. So
this is on YouTube. Is it other places?
Internet Archive. I have a backup of it on the Internet Archive, but it's mainly just YouTube.
Okay, so what it is, I guess there's still you need like a cover screen or something. Okay, Resurrecting Sinistar, a cyber archaeology documentary. And you can watch this, folks, right now. It's got some silly thing where I can't see how long this is, but I'm pretty sure it's like 2 hours and 45 minutes long. And I gotta say, man, wow. This is the most thorough, deep, well put together, well edited. I mean, it's phenomenal.
Thank you.
It's I don't know how much the people watching, how much they know about Sinistar. You might think, well, okay, I never even heard of that game. They probably have if they watch this channel. They're about mostly guys like me, I would assume, right? It's usually who ends up watching your stuff. But even if you haven't ever heard of that game, you got to watch this. You've got to watch this. I mean, it will it's really the game. Obviously, you go very deep into Sinistar. You do the cyber archaeology work, and I hope we'll get into what that means at some point,
Yeah,
because it's quite a bit different than just the kind of historical stuff that I do. But
for
even if
sure.
I mean, you cover the pinball, the Williams, the crash. There's a lot of philosophy or design philosophy that gets discussed in here.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I don't know where you want to start. We got
Well,
hours and 45 minutes, and then you got other projects you wanted to talk about too. So I'll just
yeah.
let your show, man. Where do you want to start?
Well, thanks, Matt. I just where to start is a very valid question because there were so many moving parts, and um, as a hobbyist, gamer and historian, just doing this for fun, the documentary was, came about as a thing for me to like, I wanted to make something that I was proud of in terms of like, if the opportunity ever arised for, me to make a video or something about a game, and it just everything kind of fell into place. But to give you some context, I'm unusual in the fact that I was introduced to Sinistar when I was 14 back in 2004. So I had never really I had it was the GameCube. I got the
You
Midway
didn't
Arcade
play it back
Treasures.
in the days
I'm
of
sorry.
you didn't play it back in the arcade days then.
Yeah, no, and so I never really. My first experience was with the Nintendo GameCube when it was ported to Midway Arcade Treasures with developed by Digital Eclipse and Mike Micah's team there, and
Yeah, when did
it
that?
was
The original arcade game I think was like 80. Well, you're the man. When was it, like 83 or 82? So you
it
didn't
was
play it. How many years after it came out were you playing it then? I'm trying to.
it was like 20. I think Sinistar was like already 22 years old by the time I had actually, first encountered it. And I'll never forget, when you go into the interface for the Midway Arcade Treasures, you get the display of all the games and everything. And so there was a game on there that I was initially interested to try out, Spy Hunter. And so
That's
it
a good game too. I like that one.
well, you see, the control scheme on the GameCube, it's a very difficult game in terms of emulation.
Do, do,
Um,
do, 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 do. I mean, it's like a Peter Gunn theme for that.
e- exactly. One of my favorite bands, The Art of Noise, they did a cover of the Peter Gunn theme. I think probably the weird, like, subconscious way of how I stumbled upon Spy Hunter was through Art of Noise. So, sidetrack for those who know the Art of Noise, they use the Fairlight CMI computer, very first 8-bit digital sampler. It uses the exact same CPU as the Williams stuff, the 6809. So I had no idea until like doing the reverse engineering for Sinistar. I was like, wait, this is the same CPU as the Fairlight. So it's just this
I didn't
the
even know Art
synchronicities.
did a Peter Gunn. I'm already learning stuff. So this was like 86. They did a cover.
Yeah, I think so this is my music side of me.
Yeah, this is
um,
becoming a thing on Match Chat. We start talking, we don't, we talk about everything but the topic at hand.
oh, okay. Well, this
People love
sounds
it.
right for me.
Yeah, yeah. You talk about what you want to talk about. Okay, so we were talking about Art of Noise and this. Was it a Fairchild? What was that?
Oh, it's a Fairlight. It's
A
a
Fairlight. What the hell is that?
So yeah. So for those, it's the world's first 8-bit digital sampler. It's developed in Australia by Peter Vogel and Kim Ryrie, if I remember the name correctly. I think that's correct.
Is this it here?
Yeah, yeah. And I love this thing. It's a really fascinating machine, and the fact that I kind of grew up fascinated by this machine, and it just so happened to have the 6809. I think it has two of them, one for like graphics, and a lot of 80s hits originate from this machine. Again, Art of Noise used it for a while. as their main workhorse, and Peter Gabriel.
Well, so it comes with this monitor?
Yep, and it's a light pen interface.
That is awesome. So what, you draw on it?
Yeah, yeah. I think there was one at VCF East years ago. I never been, but I would have loved to seen it in person. They're pretty rare, but they're about like I think 400 made or something like that. But as a synth nerd, they're fascinating. I believe there was one that was actually used on the latest Miley Cyrus album, which actually sounds not that bad. It was actually pretty good. So you get they even they're still being used today and everything. They're really cool.
It shot up. So she's using this vintage tech. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. They're and what's really cool is I interviewed one of the software engineers who worked on the machine, Adrian Bruce, who was also he later relocated to Japan and went to Roland and did a bunch of R&D stuff at Roland.
Yeah, they did the what was that synthesizer thing that they did that they got all the Sierra games use it, which one?
Oh yeah, it's the
What's it
MP32 module or something.
M32, something like that.
Yeah. And so
you got one of those.
Actually, no, but I know LGR probably has a ton, but
basement full of them.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. He commented on one of my videos a while back, and it was just really nice to see that. It was about some Need for Speed music for basically all the stuff that I learned from making the documentary. It was like through all these years of doing my random YouTube videos and stuff like that, and over time, doing research in video game history and doing synth archaeology, do sample findings and synth findings with video games.
Yeah, that was really cool when you found that ape for the gorilla, gorilla scream.
And I tell you, man, I can't tell you how many times it's surreal, legitimately surreal. How many times that's happened where I'll be watching a piece of media and I'm going, my ears immediately perk up and go, whoa, I've heard this before. What's going on? And sometimes it's a false alarm, because false positive, because sound is subjective, and sometimes there's sounds that sound really similar, but there's been times where even I this is a true story. I've heard my own sound effects used in media as well. I was watching, of all things, the Eric Andre show on Adult Swim, and I heard them use one of my sound effects while they were doing the intro, and I was like,
what sound effect was it?
It's a sound effect. It's like an anime punch, like with the delay and everything, and just like those something like you hear in like Lethal Enforcers or those Konami games, that kind of sound design, like that 80s 90s anime vibe, mecha vibe. And so I just used one of those sound effects and I uploaded it like years ago on like freesound.org, and it was very surprising to hear that. And then the exact same thing happened. Sorry, was that
you're like, oh, that's cool, or was it like, whoa? I mean, I don't even know how we feel.
Oh yeah, it was shocking. It was really kind of like surreal, because I was just a kid when I heard it. I mean, like in my my late teens and everything, and I was just like surreal hearing something. No, I wasn't that young, but it was like
vindication that you got some talent, though, right? You're like, wow, yeah, I made this and they used it. I
mean, right. That validation and everything was just it was so cathartic and stuff. And so
like being that Wilhelm with the scream, right? You're like that's your version of that guy.
Yeah, exactly. And there's actually and then this will be the last sound effect thing, and then we'll talk about the gorilla thing. But I made a video about this as well. I actually, one of the free sound effects I uploaded got used in a game that I found out like 10 years later is like actually well received and everything. It's called Cry of Fear. And there's a jump scare at the beginning of the game, spoiler alert, there's like this face that jumps out, and it's they used my scream. So like, yeah. So
what's your name on Free Sound?
oh my God, I don't know if uh
Oh, is it anonymous? Maybe you don't want it.
no. Let me see. That I can't remember the file name. It's something stupid like, Death Scream, something very generic. But it's there's a video on it on my YouTube channel. But I'm gonna, I'm brain farting here, just making sure it is. Yeah, it is Cry of Fear. Yeah. But yeah, so that was really cool. I got to talk to
SynaMax. Is that you?
the devs briefly about that on their Discord server and made the video.
Is this you here?
I'm sorry. Oh yeah, that's and as you can see, that was 2008.
I don't know if it'll play. Let me make sure I'm sharing the sound here.
So yeah, so
there we go. So that's good.
Well, that's you're kind of showing like my color painting, finger painting, sound design, very, very early sound design where I'm just like essentially just remixing stuff more or less. So, but that's.
But anyway, a lot of background and sound, so it makes sense that you'd recognize that gorilla when you heard it.
Yes, exactly. So, perfect segue into that. So, and my spouse, chauffeur, they were sitting next to me when I was watching this video from Vinesauce, Vinny Vinesauce, this Twitch streamer, and I've been watching his stuff for a long time. His stuff's crazy. It's really funny though, but and he watches these retro commercials and everything, and so the one retro commercial was from 1980, and then all of a sudden, we're laughing, watching the commercial, and then I hear that Sinistar roar, and I looked at the chauffeur and I'm like, did you just hear what I just heard? And we were both freaking out. And so I that was the clue that led me to answered a couple of questions of like, okay, this is actually a stock sound effect. This isn't something that was recorded exclusively for the game. It wasn't.
Yeah, because you've been looking for this thing forever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is amazing. Just happened to hear this after all those records and things you were looking through trying to find the sound effect.
Well, and there's a lot of people, myself included, that we're hobbyists that look through sound libraries and whatnot to and preserve sound effects and everything and understand the history of them. And so yeah,
it is.
I love that. I mean, just the serendipity of that.
Absolutely. It was the synchronicity and the timing and everything. He had to be at the right place at the right time. It was truly incredible. And that's what a lot of this documentary and the source code, understanding all of this was like literally perfect time. Because I tell you, a few years ago, I don't think I would have had the courage or the ability to do it, frankly. It was a lot of struggling.
Tell people what you did here, because you did a lot more than what I do and just talk to people and read. I mean, you like figured out assembly language, and not just any assembly language, right? This obscure thing that they had used to make this game with. I don't know. I mean, how did you do it?
I'd ask myself that every single day. I honestly, it's just obsessiveness, frankly. It's just.
I mean, it'd be impressive enough if somebody sat down and like learn C++ or Java or whatever, but I mean, this assembly language.
Well, and that's the weird thing is that I'm finally getting over the hump of this, but with scripting and everything. But high level languages were really difficult for me to grasp for the longest time. And weirdly enough, learning assembly language, and I spoke with Noah about this as well as of like, I find it really weird that I was able to get the hang of assembly first before like like I understood like the concepts of like high level stuff, right? But it just the abstract nature of it, it was just hard for me to, once I saw the causality of like binary and seeing like an instruction does this in memory and then it does, you know, there was a cause and effect to every single instruction. That helped me understand the concepts of high level stuff. And now, you know, I'm working on my own game now, and I'm using scripting languages like DD script and stuff. And you know, so that's something, you know.
At a screen like this.
Yeah.
So this means something to you?
After a while, you could start to see patterns. You know, like when you see a BD, that's
Okay.
like a JSR instruction. When you see a 3.9, that's
No, a
the
JSR instruction doesn't help me much, Max.
exactly. So there's
I need explain this to me like I am. I don't even know. 2 years old is sufficient.
Okay.
A clever 5-year-old. What am I mean, what is this stuff on the right? I mean, what?
Okay. So this is what's called we're looking at a memory view in like a hex editor sort of thing. I took this picture inside a hex editor. So on the left side of the screen, you're looking at the machine code, which is the raw binary data that the CPU processes, and it tells the CPU what's going on. Hey, do this instruction. Okay, do the next instruction, etc. It's a program. The stuff on the right is the exact same data on the left column because it's just encoded differently. So you're looking at two different ways of the data. So the data on the right, it can show stuff like you know, Rich Witt's name in the right column there near the bottom. So we could use bytes to encode ASCII and do letters and words and numbers and stuff. And so that's where that right panel comes into play, where it'll show you the ASCII encoding of, you know, that correlates with the bytes on the left. And of course the bytes, you know, everything's, you know, based off of bits. So it's all binary and zeros and ones, but we use hexadecimal, which is why you see these weird numbers that are using base 16 and using hexadecimal, you know, hexadecimal numbers, you know, helps us make it's easier to read binary data. So, but in terms of assembly, you're using instead of just typing every byte as is like machine code, assembly, you know, was this huge revelatory thing, the groundbreaking thing where it just made coding so much faster, because instead of typing the opcode for the instruction and then the value or the memory at, you know, it was just much easier to use it in assembly, which makes it human readable and gives these weird byte number things, you know, instructions and, you know, in labels for addresses in memory and stuff. So you can actually reference the label instead of just the raw, you know, actual memory address. There's a file, and that's why in the documentary I show these lists of if you pull up the historical source, the repository on GitHub. Yeah, actually that right here. So like, for example, we'll take a look at line number 8, you know, tune fire, you know, that's an instruction. And then after that, well, actually that's a macro, but you know, it's the same concept where you have some sort of instruction on the left side that represents an operation that the CPU can do, or in the case of macros, a combination of instructions that the CPU can do. And then on the right side, you either have like a label, which can represent either address in memory or
I feel like I've seen this LDA before.
Yes. So LDA stands for loading a value in the A register. So in this instance,
I see. So LD is load, and then the A is the register.
Yes, and so with the 6809, you have multiple registers. So you have an A register, a B register, an X register, a Y register, and they're used for different case scenarios and stuff. And so in this situation, we're looking at the code here for the player shooting. So the very first again on level 8, we have tune, cue fire. That's the sound effect call. So tune is a sound call, and cue fire. So I'm assuming cue represents like sound cue, or and so that's that. If you were to look at that in like the raw memory, you look at it. The cue fire represents like the table that actually has like the commands to like trigger the sound effect. It's like Inception. There's all these layers, right? But
let me just stop for a second.
Yes.
Folks, I challenge you to find somebody on YouTube or anywhere who's talking about games who can give you this anywhere close to this. I mean, what? I mean, okay. So
okay, yeah.
you know more about this game than the developers at this point.
Yeah, I've heard similar statements from some of them about that. It's like it's been and even just before getting on this call with you, I got a comment on my YouTube video that was like particularly like kind of almost moving. It was just like kind of like the positive reception that's it's been overwhelming. It's been really incredible, and
that's one of the things. Another thing I loved about it too is, I mean, it's not just this stuff, folks. I mean, there's a lot of interviews and things. But when I like the way you put your face on there, so we always see you as well. So when Noah, I've interviewed him before too.
Okay,
good guy. But when he was like saying how he was going to show this to his grandkids and stuff, and just that was a very touching moment. I think people will really enjoy that, and the look on your face too. I mean, you can't. That's not acting,
Oh, dude, it was one of the best. It still gets me emotional thinking about it, because it was such a validating, cathartic moment for me. It was kind of, it summarized like what the documentary really was about. It's about these people and the human connections, and the underlying humanity that's game development, because we as gamers don't really, I think it's finally turning around, but with the rise of indie gaming and everything, I think the art of game development and software engineering was kind of lost in terms of like a public understanding. Maybe like it's just now it's finally starting to be less hazy. But I mean, look at me. I'm this artist, sound music nut that just kind of stumbled into this thing, and it's I just yeah.
I mean, you hear these guys. I was thinking about this, what I was going to talk to you about, before, and I was watching this, and I kept thinking about, would I have wanted, maybe, or would you have wanted, I'm curious as well, to have been back then, with those guys making Sinistar, working at Williams or whatever. Because, I mean, on the one hand, it sounds freaking awesome.
Right.
You're there. I mean, you're making the games. I mean, you're like the god of coding or whatever, people cheering you make like those Defender guys and everything. But on the other hand, yeah, you're sleeping at the office, like Noah, is up all night listening to a game debug thing. So it's kind of like heaven on the one hand and hell on the other. But on the other hand, when they made these games and they came out, it was their game.
Right.
So they're like, I did this. Oh, the sound, that was me, and they could clearly see their role. Whereas a modern kid, somebody that's wants to go into the gaming industry, they're like QA number 47. I mean, you're never going to get high enough on the roster to even be able. I put that pixel there, nothing like that. So I mean,
right.
I mean, that's a lot. I don't even know if I have a question in there, but
yeah,
I'll just turn it over.
that's one of the things that you bring up an excellent point in that we by as in general researching history it's important in that we learn how things were done before and why preservation, why I'm forever grateful to historical source and the people that run it that were able to upload the code and everything, because without them none of this would have happened. And being able
to breaking the law when they did that.
Well,
they said it was leaked. I don't know if leaked is in like, is that a
it's
how did it get leaked?
Right. Well, I don't even know, how, but I'm just very grateful that it did, because I wouldn't be here talking to you about it. But it shows that there's a real purpose and a real good things happen if when this stuff is preserved and it can be used to be studied and to help revive interest in things and help us get a new appreciation and understanding of how some of our favorite media were created.
It convinced me with this, because most people think of video game preservation, and my guess is even people that are fairly serious about it, digital archives and things, they probably feel like, well, you need to have the ROM or maybe the disk, maybe the box. They're not even thinking on the level of code, source code.
Right.
And you're like, well, we don't really need that. But you watch this doc and you see, no, this is really important. Maybe we need this more than all the rest.
Well, it's in terms of if anyone who's in the game industry and they're responsible for archiving their collection of games, yes, that's absolutely critically important, because you have to to be able to do to be I've been working with a couple of other teams that are doing disassembly of other games and stuff, in a clean room environment and everything, and it's fun, it's its own challenge, but this assembly is so much more work, because it's this huge cryptography thing, right? Where you're just, and the one I'm working on is a Symphony of the Night, the Castlevania game for PS1. I'm helping with some of the sound stuff for that, but the other people on the team, they're just doing this amazing stuff where they got to decompile the program and or disassemble rather, and look at the assembly for the PS1 CPU and try to piece it all together and see, and very, very, crazy stuff. But, that's so much more work than just having the source code. So being able to look at the source code and look at the original comments from the developers.
Yeah, the comments, because even if they do that, they're not going to be able to see the comments.
Correct.
I didn't realize the comments were such a big deal.
Yes, and they're even more of a big deal in Sinistar, because when you look at the code bases for the other Williams games, you could tell that disk space was a concern, because I think they had like a VAX mini computer, VAX 11 or something like that. So that God only knows how much disk space they had back then, if they even were using hard drives. I don't know if it was like tape backups or anything.
These are the comments here, right?
Right.
So yeah, you can see. I think anybody could see why this is useful.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Preserve this. I mean, forget about emulation or anything. Just somebody that really wants to understand the game and it's how they made it, and you studied the innovations and things like that. You need this.
Absolutely, especially if you want to mod the game, or again, have an understanding of like what went into making it, and
or what they wanted to put in. But they had to put, was it the anti-bootleg or whatever?
Oh yeah.
So we're gonna have to put that in instead of the exhaust. Can you imagine, a modern game, the developer like, okay, I can either put the anti-piracy stuff in, or I can put a title screen in my game, or I can have some exhaust coming out of my ship.
Yeah. I
mean, that you just have it's hard to even imagine those restraints they had.
Absolutely. And earlier talking about you know, like me having as much knowledge as the original devs and everything. Yeah, when you're looking through the code base, yeah, there's a part of me that's like, you know, kind of like role playing or cosplaying as a software engineer at Williams, you know, like, okay, I'm looking through this code, you know, but it's more so just like, okay, the feeling more accurately is like, uh, this is what it's like actually developing a game. This is difficult. This is, you know, there's still stuff in there that Sam and Rich wrote that and you know, all of them, I still have a hard time wrapping around, because it's like, again, you're dealing with assembly and everything, and you know, just, you know, there's you know, you know, routines for like, you know, figuring out sine cosine so you can place the objects on the screen and figure out the vectors and it's all this math and stuff
know
that I'm
math,
still
and
learning.
geometry, and trig, and I mean,
Yeah, and I was not the greatest in math in school, so it's like I'm slowly catching up, but it's you know, it's been worth it. It's sometimes you just got to do learn stuff a different way, and mine just happened to be with the Sinistar stuff.
well, I think the Sinistar stuff is a great sort of window into all these other things. You know, I mean, there's just so much to. I didn't even I was a little skeptical. I mean, I played Sinistar,
Right.
and the arcade, sort of. I think I was telling you over email. This is the earliest video game I remember is Sinistar.
That's crazy,
And
man.
it was a little pizza place. I'm from Louisiana.
Hmm.
So it's a little rinky-dink pizza joint, and they had it wasn't a Pizza Hut, just like an independently owned thing. But I remember they had a Sinistar, and my dad would hold me up, and he would could do the joystick, you know. And my job was just to mine. I was like, you know, 4 or 5, and just mashing the buttons. But man, when that face and the voice, you
Oh
know,
my god.
scared the crap out of me, you know. Which it probably helped my dad play, because it would make me think even faster. But yeah, so I kind of got a personal connection to this, but I didn't know there was this much to it. To be honest, I mean, you really opened my eyes to this.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to achieve with the documentary, was to kind of, as I was reverse engineering the game, or you know, just restoring the code base and everything, I had to learn more about Williams' history, and
They
you
were a
know, like,
pinball company. I mean, that's even another weird thing about this. So they were just starting to kind of playing catch up with the video games.
yeah, they were like, you know, they saw the writing on the wall and saw Pac-Man and Space Invaders, and they're like, we gotta do something. We gotta jump in on
We thought
this.
that people were going to stop playing pinball and
Right.
be out
Well,
of business.
and pinball was declining. They, you know, the high maintenance and everything of the machines, and being just everyone saw, oh look, you can control a TV screen. That was such a radical new concept, you know.
Funny thing is, nowadays I'd go to an arcade, and if there's a pinball machine, I'll probably play that instead of this Pac-Man game or whatever they got there.
Right. And yeah, exactly, you know, and there's something about the arcade machines. You know, I feel very fortunate being a 90s kid, you know, like that last gasp of that second like resurgence of arcade games in the 90s. And I too have memories of like, you know, growing up in
Mortal Kombat.
yeah, Mortal Kombat. There was this pizzeria growing up where they had Lethal Enforcers, um, SCI, that one racing game, like Special Criminal Investigation or something, and Aero Fighters 3. And Aero Fighters 3 had this
machine gun where you had the little Uzi looking thing. What was that?
oh that like Operation Wolf or something.
Yeah,
maybe?
that's it. Operation
Okay.
Wolf. That's a lot of fun.
You could play that once.
Can you imagine that game in today? Or any of those games.
Yeah.
Which one were you talking about though?
Yeah, no, the Aero Fighters 3. It was funny because like
Aero
even in
Fighters 3.
the soundtrack is hilarious because it's all this jungle D&B music. It's really good actually, but it's they had it on the attract mode. The volume was like 100%, So like you're trying to eat pizza at this joint, and like the music, there's just this bass and drum and bass loops and everything. It was funny. That's one of my earliest arcade memories. But
I remember the ones that had the. I remember there was a mall, and I think it was an X-Men game they had. This was like a 4-player thing.
oh yeah,
It's
yeah,
like this huge cabinet, you know.
yeah.
That was
They had one of those at the Chuck E. Cheese. I remember growing up, and
Chuck E. Cheese.
yeah, yeah. This is way back. I don't remember playing it, but I remember like it's got some good Konami music on there. I remember, like I'm a big fan of 90s Konami sound. They like Lethal Enforcers has got like a really good soundtrack. They knew what was up with the music department there.
Well, there's a kind of a. I remember talking to the fat man.
Oh yeah.
Trying to get this Lethal Enforcers game up here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's got. Oh, I remember this. Is this the one that had those pedals? You like push on the pedal and it would duck or something?
I think that's Time Crisis.
Okay,
This is like 2D, like 1992 sort of vibe. So it's got like that Mortal Kombat vibe where.
Oh wait, it's a video.
They shot the they're sprites, they're bitmap images, but they're just like it's like Mortal Kombat where they digitized actors and stuff. And it's silly. It's a fun game.
That was like a Beastie Boys video or something. But yeah, the fat man, he had done music for games, and then he got into he's still doing music for games, but it was those casino games like the video poker,
right?
That sort of thing. So they put a lot of thought. It's a really big deal about the music in those and the sounds, purposefully making it as addictive, like an earworm almost. So I mean, they put a lot of thought. I'm just fascinated by it. But it makes a lot of sense because you might not even be thinking about the way a game sounds as you're playing it, but that might be the thing that keeps you coming back.
Yeah.
You might not even be aware of it. Like, oh, I kind of missed that sound in Sinistar when you get your life,
Right. It's it's funny, yeah. Like for me personally, like my favorite sound effect from the game is like the startup cue, and it's just like one of those weird sounds where you can't really put your finger on it in terms of like it's just this kind of bizarre sound, and hearing from Mike Metz that it was pretty much kind of like a random sound. He just came up by accident. That's just it's funny.
I don't know if we
to hear a story like that.
Place we can go to hear the sounds.
Oh, that probably. I don't think there's like a soundboard. Right? This game's so niche.
Something here.
I
don't see.
It's just the audio clips for the speech.
You're talking about when you boot up the machine, though, or started.
How much? Like we just lost half of the audience. I'm just kidding.
Like this very it gets your attention. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like da, 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 da.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a fast.
The alien. It's just like, what the hell's about to happen here?
Right. And every time it's funny because every time I play the game, even after all these years, there's still that like I love how the orbital approach of the Sinistar just like he'll just fling out of nowhere, and even though you played this game for so long, there's still that like because so much stuff is happening on the screen, and you have to have this like laser like focus all the time. Like you're okay, how many bombs I have? Okay, what's the score? Okay, I gotta get this and gotta get that, and so you're too busy focusing on mining for crystals, and then the Sinistar just zooms in and kills you. It's
big and scary too. I'm trying to find a picture of it here in your video. Is there a spot here somewhere that you know?
I wish I could remember the time markers. I should have sent some photos there. I apologize about that, but it's
something big and like super scary looking. Well, you keep talking. I'll find it here in a second.
Okay. But yeah, and that's why one of the reasons why the documentary is so long, for those who are like going, I'm not going to spend 2.5+ hours watching this documentary. It's like, first off, there's chapters, second off, I'm aware how long it is, but there was so much with this game in terms of ingenuity and innovation that there was no other way to in order to be concise and cover it all, and it had to be that long.
Yeah, look, there it is. Look at that son of a gun. Oh, look at that. Oh man, imagine being like 4 years old.
Right.
And you and your dad, on the little ship. And it's like, I don't know what's happening, Dad. Oh my God. I mean, even now it makes me a little queasy. That game, that was scary.
I love how there's been the reaction from everyone about the game. It's and about people relaying their stories to me about the game and their memories and that it conjures up and stuff. It's been incredible, and it shows how this game really it leaves an impact, and I really feel like it's like one of those few arcade games from America from the early 80s, before Mario, before Nintendo, that still has this cultural relevance.
People, they just forget all about these American games, right? They jump
right.
Miss Pac-Man or Space Invaders, and maybe it Pong. What about what about Sinistar? What about another one?
And that was one of the reasons why, again, I felt like it was important to make the documentary in that
Joust.
Joust, right? Exactly. It's
why do we get sort of overwhelmed with Japanese games, you think?
Oh, well, I mean, Nintendo definitely revitalized the industry, and in terms of consoles, and it was just they were at the right place at the right time, and we're getting better and better at making high quality games and stuff, and it just there's so many moving parts where things start getting, in terms of game history, a little bit muddy, in terms of because then you have to start really thinking of coin op and gaming sphere as a world sphere, and that can get really complex, because if you're trying to get a cohesive context and understanding, that that could be challenging, and so that's what I'm trying to do, to answer your question. It's important to have the context of how Japanese developers were able to kind of revitalize the industry and everything, and games like Star Rider, which contributed to the downfall of Williams, unfortunately.
Motorcycle looking thing that you
and that was another thing I felt there was so many connections with Sinistar, with Star Rider, that I felt that it was really...
I remember this. So this was you're talking about how the Dragon's Lair, I think, came out.
Yes.
That's a huge thing. And then I was like, Laserdisc is the future. So Williams trying to do I guess this racing game.
Yeah, they were trying to do a racing game, and there was a couple other. I didn't get to talk about this too much in the documentary, but
they
had a couple of other ideas, even a dungeon crawler thing, that never got beyond paper drawings and stuff. But
that's totally badass. But
yeah, I've never played one.
Yeah,
but I would love to. And this is rare footage that I found online. From, I believe, one of the engineers that used to work at Williams, Duncan Brown, and he went through the archives of the pinball designer Steve Kordak and found these amazing tapes of this is
amazing.
It's a really in terms of a engineering marvel, it really is. It's kind of incredible what they did, and and that's like rare prototype footage too. So you're seeing an even earlier version of the game there.
I mean, see, I would have been impressed with you if all we had was like, oh yeah, I found this never before seen. I mean, how many times have you seen the video? Never before seen this, never before seen that, you know. Because I know, I mean, I do videos too. I know how hard it is to find that stuff. Nobody watching ever has any clue.
Right.
Oh, it's three. Well, it's like somebody complaining about 3 or whatever hours or 2.5 hours. Give me a break, man. You have no idea how many. It probably took you that long to make each minute.
Right.
Video,
And
you know, have a little appreciation, a little patience, folks.
I'm glad you you're communicating that, because it's like, yeah, it takes a lot of work, and I was like, I was watching a video by the Re-Res. They did a video like that was like 3 hours long about Sonic 06, and they put the captions on the bottom showing the source, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to do that for my video and put sources and stuff. But I'm really glad I did, because I felt it was important to kind of like, hey, if you wanted to look into this, here's the source so you can, see it for yourself or pull it up on archive.org. Because yeah, it was that. And I think the people, that scan these materials, that take the time and effort to collect the magazines and then graciously put them up for free on archive.org, or that's a huge service for historians and preservation of our gaming history and culture. They're the young sung heroes of this.
I mean, it's just basic scholarship in a way, not to get too fancy about it, but you make a video and then somebody like you comes along, maybe after you're gone, and like, oh, I wish I knew where that clip came from.
Right.
Well, maybe it might not even exist anymore. So
Well,
at
actually,
least having the link or the citation to it will give you some. I mean, this happens in real history. Well, I shouldn't say that. This happens in what's the word? World history, I guess, too, right? They'll have a historian, and the historian will be quoting some source that's long gone, and maybe we only know about that source from that quotation. So you got this responsibility that you might not even be aware of.
yeah, that's a very valid point, and there was one clip in the documentary where I am really glad I downloaded it, because I went to reference it in the source, and it was actually removed. I think it had like a copyright because of the stupid music in the background. YouTube took it down or something. So I'm really glad I downloaded that video before it got taken down, because I used it a lot. But there was also but yeah, you have a responsibility as a historian and as someone making art, or a documentary, to be transparent and to show, like, from a non-biased position, like what's going on. And I really felt like this was something lacking in terms of tracking game development. And I was like, well, hey, I'm an artist. I'm this obsessive guy. Let me take all the skills I've learned from all the past crazy videos I've made in my past, and actually make something that's like informative and serves a purpose, and that really kind of, to again, it's been insane and overwheloming how much positive reception this thing is. It's really been, it made all this worth it.
I mean, you did the work. I mean, I'd be more surprised if people weren't impressed with it, especially anybody that's even remotely a fan of the game. Come on. I mean, they should be eternally grateful for this. I mean, just some of the stuff that can I get into a few of the things that kind of piqued my interest about
For sure, absolutely.
The doc. So one of the things that really kind of got my imagination firing was when Noah, was it Falstein? Is that, or Falstein?
Falstein, yeah.
Yeah, when Falstein was talking about the controller, the joystick.
Yeah.
And he made the, they, I don't know enough about the engineering, don't really understand all of the like analog and a 49 whatever directional stick, and it worked, and all this stuff. But he made the point that what excited him about working on arcade games was that they could design their own controllers, their own control panels, whatever, to fit the game they were working on.
Right.
Whereas now developers are stuck. You have to work around the, I guess, the standard PlayStation style controller or a mouse and keyboard setup. But I never really sat down and thought about that before. And it got me thinking, what would games be like if you could just, every game you had it some kind of custom controller set up just for that game,
Right, right. And
I didn't get much further than that with my little brainstorm, but I bet it would be a lot different.
well, like Rock Band, Guitar Hero,
Oh, that's a
the
good example.
peripherals, the interfaces, those are like been like kind of the resurgence of like, kind of like those unique arcade controls in the home environment. And the Wii with Nintendo, they knew that like, okay, cool, we found a standard in terms of the gamepad, but let's reinvent the wheel. Let's make something, different. And it's this, that kind of similar mentality with Sinistar and, especially with Sam Dicker, just trying to create something that's unique and different and better than what's currently out there. And being
I
able
wish we
to,
had more of that attitude. I mean, I love that philosophy. It's like we're not just going to make a clone or a Me Too kind of game.
right,
Like an incremental, thing. We want to just do something totally awesome. It's never been done before and better than anybody else could do it. I love, I love the moxie of that. And I guess it doesn't work in the long run because the suits are just going to keep. I mean, and they've got a point too. I think that, well, there's a reason why that PlayStation style controller is the standard.
right.
There's a reason why the AS there was a WASD reason that
Yeah,
exists, and you don't want to unless you got a really good reason. Like I think the Dance Revolution was a great example.
right, right, right,
With the Wii, I mean, how many developers really want to make a game for the Wii back then? No,
right.
going to require a lot of custom work to make it work with that controller.
And Nintendo kind of alienated a lot of developers, posts, like with the GameCube and we a lot of people, again, it gets complicated in terms of the history and everything, but from what I understand, it's just you got to invest in development kits and learn how to the new APIs and all the coding libraries and everything to develop software for a new platform. And I think there was a lot of people were like, oh, we're not going to develop for the Switch, and then once they saw the numbers, it's like, oh, okay, we're developing for the Switch.
That's the only reason I'm not a console guy. I'm more of a computer gamer, but I do buy the
Sure.
late. I always get the Nintendo, whatever their thing is, because it's different.
Right,
It's
right.
a unique. If I'm going to get a console, I don't want to play the same games on it that I could play on my PC. With the same sort of configuration. I want
Right.
something that's really different. And usually with the Nintendo, that they deliver on that. Some ways better than others, I suppose. But like the Wii, to me was just. I still think that's one of the most brilliant consoles we've seen. I mean, remember like Wii Bowl and oh geez,
Yeah.
the other one that was a big hit.
There was, yeah, I remember playing the Wii bowling, remember Wii golf, remember
Yeah,
Metroid
but
Prime
tennis
3.
game was really good. But anyway, yeah, it was a unique experience, and even people that didn't weren't into games bought one of those consoles. So I think
Right.
I mean, just to circle back to Noah, I think he's on to something there.
No, yeah, no, it's the controls and that's what was I feel very fortunate about playing Sinistar for the first time on the GameCube because of it was I think it was the first time Sinistar came out on a console that actually had an analog stick. So, because I think even on the PlayStation 1, it couldn't support the DualShock controller. So even the analog sticks on the PS1 wouldn't work. So you just a D, I can't imagine playing Sinistar with a D-pad.
Yeah, so this is this is the right controller?
Yeah, that's the right controller. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I've only played a few of these games.
I actually quite like the GameCube controller. I think it was a good design.
The Nintendo 64 controller, doesn't it also have an analog?
Yes, and that's a very weird analog stick
I
where
just skipped this GameCube. I went from the 64s directly to the Wii, I believe.
uh, uh, I'm trying to remember. There was like there was a Animal Crossing. I think it was originally like an N64 game, and then they ported it to the GameCube. And the GameCube port is like what made it famous. Because I think the N64 port is Japanese only, but yeah, good. I'm really glad that my parents reluctantly gave me a GameCube. They were against video games for a long time. I think they saw like a bunch of the '90s commercials for video games, and they're like, I don't know if we're gonna we're gonna buy a console, but Santa reluctantly got us a GameCube the one year, and then uh, I again that leads us back to the arcade treasures, and so it was like the first time I really had a home console, and I feel really fortunate that it was also how I was introduced to via a compilation title to like these really important games. And I think with stuff like Atari 50, we need games like that to help. I hear people on arcade forums go like, oh man, how the kids are going to get into arcades long after we're gone and stuff. And it's like, well, these compilation titles I think are a really good way of introducing games to a new generation of players, especially the way how they did it, where you have again a documentary and special features and stuff that tie alongside with the games, and you get to look at the flyers and stuff. I believe that's a really important way of preserving game histories, putting it in a game like that, right?
Oh my God, I can't seem to find I was looking for a screenshot of the actual arcade treasures thing.
Oh, yeah, I think you pulled it up earlier.
Like it's got gone. Yeah, I think your video has gone out, or your cam or something, Max.
Oh, let's see. Well, can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
I can see myself. It looks like.
You're back.
Okay, I was still seeing the
complain about it in Zoom. People would hear. Okay, so I'm trying to understand. So you did not grow up playing these games in the arcades.
No.
You just got a GameCube, and somehow did you pick out the Midway arcade treasures, or is that just somebody gave it, or what's the story there?
So and that's when we were talking about Art of Noise earlier. They did the cover of Peter Gunn, which when I was playing it was developed by Paradigm Entertainment, the same people that did like Beetle Adventure Racing and Pilot Wings. They did a Spy Hunter game in the 2000s. So I played that. I enjoyed that, and I'm like, oh, well, I want to play the original Spy Hunter on Midway Arcade Treasures. I fired it up, and the control scheme was really confusing. I didn't get into it, and so I started looking at other games, and I saw like Blaster by Williams Electronics. I'm like, what's Williams Electronics? So I fire up Blaster, and I'm like in this first person, you're zooming through space. There's these weird psychedelic colors flying by. There's these giant Robotron dudes, and these crazy sound effects. It was overwhelming, and I'm like, I gotta look into more of these. As a 14-year-old, I gotta find more of these. I keep on seeing this name pop up, Williams. Like, what is this? And so just scrolling through, there's Blaster. Really, that's like probably like my second favorite Williams game. Frankly, it's
I don't know if I've played this one.
It's the sequel to Robotron. And you're you're flying through space. You got to pick up the astronauts, avoid aliens, avoid the planetoids.
The space boogers.
and
So you played that.
then I discovered Joust, and so that was the first time I played Joust, and realized like, oh, Nintendo pretty much copied this for Balloon Fight, and then there was like some because of the way Midway was back then, they also had the Atari Games library as well. So there was like Paperboy and Road Blasters and stuff like that. So by the time I got to the S's, I'm like, what's the Sinistar,
So you're not bothered at all by like the so-called
I opened it up, and you don't really see.
wait.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I think we got out of something's happening weird with our Zoom call, but anyway.
Oh, that's weird.
Or one of these people that got put off by the 8-bit graphics or anything like that. You just thought it was cool. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, well, I was playing it on like the smallest TV too, so the graphics looked pretty good, on the 13-inch CRT. So just imagine, this vertical Sinistar game just being squished even more so on the super small CRT. So I just had to sit really close.
Somebody's got 4K gameplay of this. Why do you need 4K gameplay for Sinistar?
That's hilarious, actually.
That's probably more resolution than the actual. Well, definitely a lot higher resolution than the actual game. I always thought this game was. You had mentioned this too. How hard this is. Of course, you're not supposed to play it for more than a couple of minutes before you have to pop another quarter in.
Exactly. There's so much going on. You're juggling so many tasks, and you have to avoid the warrior shots. And so doing all that stuff when you're playing the game, I do this thing when I'm playing the game. I call it the Cine Shuffle. And what it is, yeah, the Cine Shuffle. And what you do is when you're mining for crystals, I move the joystick back and forth. So I wiggle the player ship. So you're constantly getting a different angle at how you shoot at the asteroid. And by doing that, instead of just like shooting at one angle and then just have all your bullets hit the asteroid at that same angle, if you change up your angles, more crystals come out of the planetoid. And so that's a better way of getting more crystals and stuff, I found out. And so it's just
you gotta get the crystals, and if you get enough crystals, then you get a bomb, right? And then you blow up the Sinistar.
Correct.
Okay, but then the other ships running around can also pick up those crystals, and they're trying to build the Sinistar.
Correct. So while there's this, you have to try to collect the crystals, but there's also these enemies floating around. You have two different types of enemies. You have the warriors and the workers. The workers are defenseless, like these red insect guys. They're numerous, and so they just swarm, and they'll try to scoop up the crystals, and then they'll transform into a piece of the Sinistar once they get to the construction zone of the Sinistar. And so they transform into a piece of the Sinistar, and then if there's like 13 pieces, then you get a Sinistar that's alive and starts chasing you.
I'm alive, or what is it?
Beware, I live.
Beware, oh yeah. Oh. Beware, I live. That voice sounds like so perfect too. With that.
That sounded like Paul Rubens there or something like.
I don't. Try playing that game, and especially if it's just like your first few times, and you hear that, and you don't get a little creeped out. Give me a break.
That scream is, for me, it's one of the most memorable elements because it's just so terrifying and unexpected.
I think of the games back then. Robotron and Missile Command. These are dark. You're gonna die.
Right.
No matter how good you are, chump. You're gonna get you're gonna die horribly in these things. Like the Robotron, I think it's like your family too, right?
Right. It's a bit bleak.
I mean,
I'm not gonna lie.
no wonder we're all so screwed up, you know. Then you got the happy Miss Pac-Man or Pac-Man, but I guess even that doesn't end up so well. So
I feel very fortunate that I discovered Sinistar when I did at like 14, because that was like the same time I was I was craving like scary stuff like Metroid Prime and Metroid Prime 2. I absolutely loved the second one, and so that was the exact same time I was playing those games that I also discovered, Sinistar. So it was I was eating good.
I'm intrigued by this though. So you play Sinistar, there must be something about it that just like whoa. Whoa.
I think there's the thing about Sinistar for me is just I recognize, like, even like at an early age, that I felt like I was playing something that was ahead of its time, that it was like light years ahead of its contemporaries, right? I felt like I was playing a Super NES game rather than an 8-bit game, even though it is running on an 8-bit CPU. So that kind of just resonated with me. The art, Jack Hager's pixel art is, has been very inspiring for me, frankly. And his use of shading and creating, using a light source and taking that into consideration to properly shade the objects and everything.
Yeah, I thought it was cool too in the doc how you mentioned that the same artist who did the graphics in the game also was the same one who did the marquee and like the graphics on the machine. And then you pointed out that I was laughing pretty hard. You're like, this was totally different than most arcades. Yeah, you always wonder, like, why does the Pac-Man arcade game look totally, or the art on the side of the machine look totally different, nothing at all like the graphics in the game. It's like, well, it's totally different team.
I think
it's another thing that makes the game awesome. I mean, I want to have a Sinistar arcade machine now.
Right. Yeah, no, but likewise, if I had the space, I would, and the resources to do it, I would do it. But
you don't have one?
No, there's no way.
Well, look, Max, here's what you need. See,
and the cockpit, yeah.
Yeah, it could. Maybe for Christmas, huh? Look at that. Can you even order? Are these even for any amount of money? I mean, how would you?
Well,
what if I just had to have this?
Well, the sit down cabinet, there's only 200 of them made, so there's a long waiting list. But
well, they can't recreate it or make a new.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a lot of resources and stuff. I'm not sure. That would probably take a long time. But and also you have to kind of like come up with blueprints for the cockpit and try to figure out the paneling and assembling all of that. I'm sure with nowadays it's easier than ever to do stuff like that than with things like 3D printing and stuff like that. I know there was one person that did a 3D printed computer space cabinet a while ago. It was pretty interesting results and stuff. So it goes to show that like there is ways to like CNC stuff. And
that's what I was wondering about with the when Noah was talking about making your own controllers, I was thinking maybe that 3D printing might be a way to do that.
Yeah.
Get a game, and maybe it would come with some kind of program, I guess, or whatever, and you could just print out the whatever funky controller. So here it is for $4,200.
That's cheap at twice the price.
What do you get? That's not that crazy, but what version is it?
Well, it's probably the stand up, because the upright cabinet are far more common than the sit down. I've never been in a sit down cabinet, so
we got to get you well, maybe with the royalties from this documentary.
No. And
people that are watching this, if you have a lead on like where we can get one of these machines, I just want to know how much. Like, is it even possible to get one?
if someone's selling one, on the market, but I mean, they don't come up very often. But I think the last time I saw one, I think this was years ago, but there was one in my area that was actually for sale on Craigslist. It may have been a scam. I don't know. I never looked into it, but
The Sinistar, specifically that one though.
yeah, the sit down and but they wanted like
Hell of a
5,000.
scam. They're like, well, I know this guy making a Sinistar documentary. What if I put a little fake Craigslist ad?
No, it was probably real, but yeah, they wanted like 5,000 for it. That was way outside my price range.
Well, how much does just a regular arcade machine cost?
I mean,
Couple of grand anyway.
it depends. Like if you want like a machine that runs MAME, or have an original machine. It depends on how obsessive you want to be about it, right? Do you want all original? Do you want excuse me, you want all original, or do you want like refurbished, restored, doing restoration?
I've never been in one of those cockpit versions either.
They're
It
very
looks so cool in your video though, and it even has like exhaust, like it's a jet or like it's a rocket, coming out the back.
yeah, they did a great job with the design on it. It's pretty cool, and
Yeah, there you go. This is let's see if we can get you one of these.
I just what I like about it, again being yeah, but
Would you ever
and that
would
was
you ever come out of it?
yeah.
It's more than just the cockpit. I mean, it's got this is like the stereo sound in this one. It looks really cool.
Yeah, they have the stereo. It's the very first. Blaster uses stereo as well, but Sinistar did it first. And because the soundboards they just do mono, they had to use two soundboards. So there's four speakers. You have two in the front and then two in the back.
Oh, so it's surround.
Yeah, it's sort of like that, but they're both like it's still stereo. So it's not like left front, or rear left, right, rear, right. It's just they're kind of like it's like left and then right. So I've actually had arguments with people about this, trying to explain how the sound works. It's I can laugh about it now, but it was pretty intense. I'm not
a lot of lost friendships.
yeah. Almost, but the point is that yeah, you have one channel of audio that's being outputted through the two front speakers, and then you have another channel of audio that has a slight delay of about 90 to 100 milliseconds, and this creates a stereo separation effect. So that way, you're hearing a sound in the front, but then you're hearing the delay of it in the back, and it creates this like bouncing effect. So you're hearing the sound first, like with the standard audio in the front speakers, but in the rear, you're hearing like the slightly delayed version. But that's only with a couple of sound effects. The explosions are really cool because they're a random number generator sort of thing. They're always random every time. They play at the exact same time, no matter what. But because they're always different, they sound really cool in stereo as a result. So they sound really, really immersive, even though it's like exactly the same explosion sound.
It sounds like a psychedelic experience in this cockpit with this thing. It's a pretty
right
game anyway.
I think that's why they call them zoner games. It's just you get in the zone.
One of these days, if I was a millionaire, I'd be trying to find one of those cockpits because that sounds so cool.
No, it's fascinating. I feel fortunate, to be. That's why I love emulation, is because it allows people like myself who are unable to even afford a cabinet to still experience the games and everything. It's hugely important.
Who is this? Was it Mark? Is his name? The music guy, the sound guy?
Oh, Mike Metz.
Oh, Mike Metz. Yeah, he was one of the best people, I thought. He had some of the really fun stories about. I don't want to spoil everything, folks, because you need to watch the documentary, but it's really some fun stuff about how they made the sound and how they got the voice samples and everything. It's really compelling.
Oh yeah, it's the amount of work that went into everything and just trying to digitize all that audio into 16 kilobytes of space, you're dealing with I believe the hardware they use is like originally had like military purposes or something. So you're like using like yeah, it's like this CVSD encoding. It's like originally had like military applications for like encoding audio, and then they just like, hey, we can use this for pinball.
I think a lot of our game stuff comes from the military.
Yeah.
I was thinking that I know what was it? Battle Zone.
Yes.
I think that was based on. I never got the story straight. If the Army used it, saw the game and used it, or did they Atari somehow base the game on something that was real?
I believe Atari like took the game engine, if I recall correctly. I think they took the game engine for Battlezone and like pitched it to the military. It's like, hey, would you guys like a simulator, a tank simulator? Here you go. And I think there was even like
simulators were real. Like they made a game out of flight simulators, but that was not an entertainment.
Right.
To begin with, that was for real training.
I think there's a prototype of an Atari Vector flight simulator as well. I've seen pictures of it, and so they were dabbling with that kind of tech and simulation stuff.
What does it have to do with audio, though? I don't know. That's a new one. I haven't heard that before.
Oh, well, I'm a little confused. Like, what? How do we get onto it?
The audio compression was something from the military.
Oh, I guess it's just like encoding, communications, like maybe like flight jet pilot stuff or something.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Just radio stuff. Yeah.
So nothing cool, just regular communication.
There's a YouTube channel, Curious Mark. He does this really cool content where he'll look at a lot of the military tech and everything, but stuff like Apollo. So he'll look at Apollo computers, and he's helped with the Missodium, like restore stuff. And I love watching his channel because you get to see kind of that military grade engineering and stuff, and you get to see like the differences in like of kind of the redundancy that you see in like hardware design and those kind of applications, and aircraft grade applications, and compared to our
Curious Mike.
Mark, M-A-R-C.
Curious Mark.
Yes.
Because I was looking at Curious Mike, and I'm like, I don't know. Okay, yeah, let's look at this one. This looks like the right one. I feel like the Commodore PET.
Yeah, he's got a lot of great videos and stuff that I like watching every once in a while. And
I don't doubt it, because I've heard too that the reason a lot of early computers were developed in the first place was that the computer, or even the word, originally meant a person. And it was these women who were computing tables for the I guess the artillery.
Oh, okay.
Firing, so that became like games like Worms and Earth, so they made a game out of that. But I don't know, I just find it fascinating. How something that's could be we just kind of take it for granted and it's fun, but no idea like the sinister purpose.
Right.
Developed.
Right. There was, again, that was just the driving impetus of the documentary. It's just like there's so much info here that it was all scattered about on the internet, or through emails and correspondence and stuff. And it felt like it was kind of like really important to bring it all into one cohesive package.
I was totally unaware of the Amiga.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a lifelong Amiga fan. That was my first I had a Commodore 64, VIC-20, and then a 64, but the Amiga was the one that really hooked me into this, And I've seen like RJ Michael. I've seen that name before, but I had no idea he was involved in Sinistar or any of this stuff.
Right.
Now it all makes sense.
And in the same with Sam Dicker and Jack Hager, they went on to Amiga as well. So there's a lot of DNA in Amiga DNA.
Oh yeah, because it's a
It was-
multitasking. You mentioned that a couple times in here. How this game has some multitasking routines in it, right? And I wonder, does that have anything to do with that end up somehow in the workbench and like the multitasking of the Amiga?
I think if just the name alone, but the concepts, and I would definitely think that I don't think it's presumptuous to say that Sinistar was kind of like the test bench, the training grounds of the multitasking for I know Sam wasn't I don't know I don't know how much of his involvement he was with the operating system kernel itself with the Amiga, but I'm sure he was definitely aware of it, obviously co-creating it with Carl Sassenroth and stuff, but but he was I think he was doing more sound stuff from what I understand, but I would definitely they're still doing multitasking stuff in Sinistar, so I'm sure again that was again the training grounds of stuff for the Amiga, and inspiration and everything, sure. I love
Pirate Crackers. Oh, nobody knows. I thought there was somewhere here you got the footage with the Andy Warhol.
Oh yeah, you just missed it. It was at the beginning. Go back a few minutes, a few seconds.
It's okay. People have probably seen it.
Yeah, it's
I didn't know that. I mean, just so next time I see Sinistar, I'll be thinking about the Amiga just because of this.
Right. I just thought it was so cool, and RJ has been involved with other stuff like 3DO and the Atari Lynx, and so there's just to understand that this was his first video game gig. It even makes Sinistar a more distinguished title in video game history for me, because it's like the genesis of all this stuff that defined gaming in the 80s and 90s. It's really kind of incredible, and I feel very fortunate to be able to help spread the word about that, and talk about it, and preserve the code, and even make mods for the game and stuff. Just that's been a lot of fun. And
you've been really successful with that too. I was just amazed when you're showing it, like the end of it, where you start talking about your work on the code and everything, and then up into MAME, and then you have these prototypes, and then you found these features that were taken out and started putting them back in.
That was incredible. I was shocked, when I first saw that the flames for the first time correctly, because when you're looking through the code, when I was first skimming through it, I was just like, what's this tail routine? What, like, draw tail on player ship? Reading the comments and stuff, it was very weird, and I'm like, what actually is this? And that was really kind of the impetus for me really wanting to build the game from scratch again, restoring the code base so that it could work again, so I could see stuff like this. And I'm still kind of like in this weird shock state of going, I actually discovered this code, like rediscovered this lost code, like and I got it working. Like,
you're like the Howard Carter, like King Tut's tomb or something with this. And I think, even the developers are like, wow, we didn't, we forgot about that, or surreal seeing that again.
Yeah, it was that was such a highlight.
So impressed. You could really see how impressed they were. Right.
Oh. I was floored. It was such an honor to be able to talk to those guys and share all that stuff with them. It was.
How long had it been? I was just trying to do the math. I'm not terrible with the addition. So, if this came out in 82, so how long ago would that have been since they worked on that code?
It's been 43 years, I think, since the game came out, if I recall correctly. So yeah.
It's over a lifetime for a lot of people watching this video.
Yeah, right. Well, for me, yeah. It's old. That's it's I feel, again, it's weird that that I missed this game initially, and it just somehow fell in my lap, and it just became this whole thing. And
Are you sick of the game? Or
Are you
sick of Sinistar? Are you tired?
Yeah. Yeah,
You're going to become the Sinistar, go to for all things Sinistar after this.
Right, and that's and as I was reading an article somewhere about like how
You're
smart
calling
people.
yourself SynaMax already, right?
Well,
Become your identity.
It's yeah, that's and this is I guess it's one of the first exclusives on the show. Yeah, this is the first. That's why my name is SynaMax, is because of Sinistar. That's I've never told anyone that. So that's I told Noah that, but I didn't tell anyone. So
They
that's
put
public.
Cine in front of everything, like Cine Bomb, Cine.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where that name came about. And
fart. I think there was a Cine fart somewhere in the source.
Right. So yeah, so it was originally SynaMax, but then I changed it to SynaMax because I just wanted it to sound a little different and stuff. And
well, there might already be a channel called SynaMax. So.
Yeah. And then, yeah. So
are they still around? I don't know.
Yeah.
Call it SynaMax. Very different.
Yeah, and I just like kind of like the wordplay, the rhyming, wordplay of this. Like, wait, are you talking about the channel, or So I thought it was kind of like the silly side of myself there. But
it works. I just want to know if you're like going to keep doing Sinistar stuff, or you're going to say, I've done enough. God, leave me alone, you people.
Well, again, like I read an article recently where they said smart people, like they get bored really quick, and they just want to move on from one thing to the next. And I feel like me, I kind of fit that a little bit. I love, and I'm not done with Sinistar yet. I definitely think there's still more stuff to be uncovered. And in fact, another announcement. I'm currently working with the people at California Extreme, the pinball show, and they're going to be having a Sinistar cockpit there with the my mod installed in the machine. So people at the show will be able to actually play my mod.
Looking at a while ago. That they
got yeah. They're going to be.
Where is this?
Yeah, so they installed it on the ROMs and put it in the game and everything. So
where's the show?
California Extreme.
Everything's in freaking California.
Yeah, I know, right?
Where are you at? You're not in California.
I'm in Florida.
Oh, well, you're even further away then.
Yeah.
Well, so you're gonna go all the way there,
huh? I'm currently we're still ironing out the details, but I'm hoping so. Yeah. There's also I think there's also going to be a couple of there's details I don't want to reveal just yet, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Out there for sure. You're gonna give a speech, and you'll have a lot of plans, I'm sure.
Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely.
Maybe you could make a Blu-ray of this and like sell copies and stuff. Do you have a Blu-ray?
No, I doubt it'll ever get a physical release or anything. This is strictly a non-commercial project, but it's a passion project at that. But
if you put a Blu-ray out, you'd get some. It's not that difficult, and aren't there like print on demand basic type services for that?
I would imagine there's some sort of service like that out there, but I know Jason Scott.
If you don't do it yourself, there's going to be bootleg floating around.
That's okay. It'd be like Mystery Science Theater, just spread the tapes, share the tapes. But yeah, I know Jason Scott. He did a documentary about bulletin board service systems and BBS stuff, and he made a physical release for that. So I could talk to him and ask him hey, can we work with the copyright holders? Or
I was thinking it'd be really funny if you did a VHS tape, but this would take a couple of those because I don't think a VHS, unless you put it in that sort of low quality mode.
Right. Didn't like Titanic come on like 2 VHS or something like that? It was like
I want to say once you get past about 2 hours, they have to do something in low quality on those. But anyway, we're getting silly at this point. Let's see. We have any other? So we talked about music. We talked about other well, I don't know. Somebody wanted to know, Mrs. Matt Bradley Shergy. If you'd
Ah,
seen King of Kong or Man versus Snake, some of those other documentaries about cartoons.
I haven't seen those, but I did see some of the inspirations for the documentary. Two in particular were um, Dangerous Days, the Blade Runner documentary by Charles de Lauzirkia, who's like, he's kind of like, last time I checked, he's like Ridley Scott's like behind the scenes guy. That's a 3 hour documentary, but kind of like mine, but it's a really great documentary. It goes into very in-depth, obsessive detail about Blade Runner and how they made the movie. It's a really great thing, and that was a big inspiration.
You talk about great music. Vangelis?
Oh yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce his name. Vangelis, if I have it right.
Oh my God,
Vangelis.
you're giving me the hard questions, man. Uh,
But anyway,
yeah,
that man, oh my,
Angelus or something. I think you're right.
you did Chariots of Fire too.
Yes, but yeah, that I used to be a big fan of that
Oh, it's
movie.
Vangelis apparently.
Vangelis, okay. I had a feeling. It's like Evangelion or something, you know. But yeah, well, that was a big
That's a pretty
inspiration.
good documentary though.
Yeah. And then specifically my documentary has chapters, and that was specifically taken from No Clip's recent documentary on or no, I think it was Secret Tape, but I forgot the production. But Danny O'Dwyer did a documentary on Half-Life 2 and Valve, and that was a really great documentary as well that I watched. That kind of helped prime me for this as well. And that one, they go, he interviews Gabe and everyone, and
Who's that sounds interesting.
oh, it's a great documentary. It had stuff that I never heard about.
This one's officially from Valve, I think.
Yes, yeah.
Man, this was such a great game.
Yeah, and what's really sad is the the one of the gentleman that they're speaking to right now, he just passed away recently. So I'm really glad they spoke to him before he went. But
Well, that's the thing. It's kind of a macabre thing to think about, but I sometimes, not with you, but with some of the folks I have on, they're some 70s and 80s. I don't know if you've had this experience, but yeah, they passed away, and nobody's ever going to interview them again.
yeah.
Some of the folks I've interviewed, this was it. Their interview with me is their only video anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. I had a friend actually, a couple months before I released the documentary, Stefan Peak. He passed away in February, and I didn't get to interview him. And he was did a lot of really great, amazing music for DOS, like Dune and Mega Race and KGB from Cryo Interactive.
Oh, Mega Race.
Yeah.
That had music. I'm not thinking
Yeah.
Game, the Vector game.
What was that?
The old Vector, a Mega Race game. Is that what
you're talking? That's Omega Race.
Oh, Mega Race.
This is Mega Race from
Cryo. Mega Race. Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's I got to talk to him a little bit online and stuff, and I feel very fortunate. But yeah, I kind of kicking myself for not reaching out to him sooner and saying, hey, do you want to do an interview? But I heard like a lot of other people that I spoke to, they kind of got the same situation where they tried doing an interview and it just never happened. But yeah, I'm just so that's another reason, and when the day I actually started the doing the code base, figuring out the Sinistar code base, my uncle passed away. So it was just kind of like this this reminder of like, hey, there's a reason why you're doing this. this isn't just like you're being an obsessive nerd. Like you're helping preserve history and stuff.
No,
So
I think it's absolutely well, like you say in this is the, I don't know if you say it or you're quoting somebody, but you're like, this is the cultural art of our time. This is the games are like the art form that people are going to look back on and want to know more about. And always compare it to film. If you talk to film historians, and they're like, oh, we'd do anything to have like an interview with this person or that person.
Right. right.
we lose everything. And I mean, hell, sometimes they go in and just delete the original, or we have no copies of some movie or some show, like the
Right.
even episodes of Doctor Who that they just got rid of.
Right. For sure. Yeah.
So you're like, you can't take this stuff for granted. Maybe nobody cares about it right now. I think people are starting to care about it, but yeah, it's like comic books, people just throw them away and then they start collecting them.
Right.
And then they only gradually figure out the importance.
Yeah. No, it's when you think about like um how comic books just back then they kind of like thrown around in a backpack and like I got to go to school. We're just beating the hell and back, and now we're like very carefully gingerly.
Oh, that's not. Well, we're getting way off topic here, but I guess it's not. Well, maybe not so much. I often compare it to when I was collecting comics. It was at least nobody I knew, nobody else collected them. They would read them, they subscribed to them or whatever, but then when they were done, they'd be like, "Yeah, I'm done with that. I'll tell you what, you want it, I'll give it to you for a quarter." So you just have this massive collection. They're like, "What are you doing with those bags?" Or it's a comic book. It's like $1. What are you nuts? And it's like they couldn't figure this out. Like, why is somebody collecting these things? You think it's going to be worth money?
Right.
No, I don't really care about that. I just, want to keep it in good shape. I do see that happening now with games. That people are catching up. So like I think they're going to be in a bind with Nintendo and all those arrows like that because nobody saved the boxes.
Yeah, right.
Just got the cart. So if you got like one that's in the box, and the box is in good shape,
Right. I feel very
Probably too
fortunate.
late to start collecting those unless you got deep pockets.
Right. I feel fortunate in that I still have the majority of the games that I grew up with and stuff, but I had to get like a couple new consoles and stuff, and this was before the pandemic and everything, and so I made sure to grab like an N64 because like one of my favorite N64 games is Beetle Venture Racing, and um, even in emulation, it's just like kind of like not it's not right.
That's
There's
the
a
one
lot
that
of
the Ocarina of Time came out on, right? I got a Nintendo 64 around just in case I want to play that game.
yeah.
Everybody should play that on a Nintendo 64. Although Nintendo has released, I got some over there for the Switch. They've got some Nintendo 64 controllers that are really nice.
Oh yeah, I want to get those. Yeah, I don't have like NSO or anything like that, but they look and I think they just came out with like GameCube like replicas as well or
Oh,
something.
I got those. I got the originals and the Super Nintendo ones, and then the GameCube ones. I hope they never quit supporting it because then I'd be really be stuck with all these controllers. I got two of them too, just in case I'd ever talk my wife into playing anything.
Nintendo's got this really crazy idea about replacement parts for controllers. They do like this gotcha thing where it's like you want like a replacement button or a replacement analog stick or something like that for your controller. They put it in like those vending machines where they put it in a capsule, and then you put your quarter. I hope I get my Famicom controller button replacement. Dang it, it's another N64
Are you kidding
analog
me?
stick.
This is real? What you talking about?
It is real. I saw it online. They're like in Japan. They like you can actually like you go up to a vending machine like
You're
okay,
kidding me. He's for serious?
this is real. It's for real.
Okay, yeah, that's some weird stuff. Yeah, I never have really been able to figure out anime and okay, let's talk about some of your other stuff. I know we don't have unlimited time.
For sure, for sure.
Let's see, how did it so which one do you want to do? Acrylite first or the
Yeah. I just
let's see.
just a couple of the minor brief things, but I'm going to be writing music for action platformer
Acrylite.
Acrylite. It's so it's kind of like a comment I got recently was like, it's like Abuse and Symphony of the Night.
Oh, I
So
was thinking of Shadow of the Beast.
not familiar with that one.
You're not familiar with Shadow of the Beast?
No, I'm not actually.
Okay, that's your homework.
Okay.
Yeah, this looks totally badass, man.
Oh yeah, and you could by
I'm kind of getting like Turrican vibes from this. Wait, do you
oh
know?
yeah, I can see that.
You know Turrican, we're okay. Yeah, a little bit Metroid, obviously.
Mhm.
Yeah, like Shadow of the Beast and Metroid, maybe. Yeah, but look at the
I
way
just
he's
been
zipping around. That's just yeah. I
yeah,
gotta,
it's got some really cool gameplay mechanics, and I love the aesthetic of it. The art style on it, I think, is really
yeah, it's
phenomenal.
definitely got a Turrican.
Yeah, and so it's I feel very fortunate
I
because
love the
it
look of
seems
it.
like yeah.
So many of these retro games are kind of happy and cheerful and stuff like that, and this one's to me feels more like what they were going for back then.
Well, again, I like things with a little bit of a darker nature. Again, I love Metroid Prime 2, and I really do think I like that a little bit more than the the other game. Um, I think I like that more than the original game because of its darker attitude. Like it's got a little bit more of a you have the light world and dark world vibe, and you have like the Aang monsters that come out of the black goo, like Next Generation.
Yeah, those guys are scary. I still love that Super Metroid and the original soundtracks.
Yeah, I love Super Metroid. Again, that's like
So you're doing
it's like
okay, go ahead.
oh yeah, it's like the closest like Nintendo's ever gotten to something really scary, like Silent Hill or something. I like that uh you know it's funny because like it's like I don't like super scary stuff, but I'm I like, again, just like that gothic dark atmosphere.
It's not like jump scares or like it's more it sounds a little weird, but it's kind of relaxing.
yeah, it's almost like you're in a cave or something, that
Yeah.
right. And yeah, it's kind of like the kind of game that you want to just get up to the CRT and just get a blanket around. But yeah,
Hot
those kind of
cocoa.
games appeal to me a lot. And so when they reached out, when the devs reached out and asked me to contribute some music for it, I was like, yeah, for sure. This looks great.
Is the music here somewhere?
Yeah. You could hear there's two tracks in the trailer. The first track where at the save station, save portal, or whatever it's called, you hear that's my track, and so it just got like some pads and some just got a very ambient vibe to it, and then this is some other music that was some written by another team member, and so we're just basically I'm whenever I need they need a music track, they'll just reach out to me, and it's like, okay, cool, I'll go ahead and start work. And I just finished I'm wrapping up another track for them right now, and it's kind of like for the starting world, where your player character first spawns, um and so and just going for kind of like an ancient vibe, it's fun. It's fun
You
doing
never
like
played
creating
Shadow of
these
the
assets
Beast.
and stuff.
I wish I could be there when you play it. Shadow of
Yeah,
the Beast.
so
I think you'll really find that there's a couple. I think there's three of them. I think
um,
there's three games of Shadow of the Beast, but yeah, you're gonna
okay. I'm gonna
classic Amiga stuff. But yeah,
yeah.
probably like you said, you play Turrican, so you know about Chris Hulsbeck and all his great soundtracks for that.
I've never played Turrican, but I am aware of it because isn't that Factor 5
Yeah,
that made Turrican?
so
Okay.
I've tried to get the music guy on for the show forever. Yeah, the main guy that made it, I don't know. I was trying to get him and just finally gave up.
Mm.
Some people just don't want to be interviewed or whatever.
Right, exactly. And this,
But he
uh,
just the Chris Hulsbeck, that Turrican soundtrack is just legendary. I mean, it's my go-to workout music. Okay,
yeah,
so,
I need to be more familiar with it. I'll have to check it out sometime for sure.
okay, so that's your acrolite, and then we've got something about nested dreams.
Yes, and so
So you want
with
me to play the video, or do you want to talk first, or what?
oh, a little preamble, and then we could premiere it. But just so doing all the Sinistar stuff has really helped me like understand like what's involved with game development, and it really gave me a lot of confidence to uh, finally pursue something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, which is make my own game. And so my spouse and I we're currently working on this game called Nested Dreams, and it's a top-down game, and you play this. Well, I guess I'll let the trailer speak for itself, so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on. And if you have any questions, I'll answer them.
Okay. Share sound. I had to look up nested dream. I didn't know what that was. It's
Oh,
it's
well,
a
I made him.
concept.
I was rushing trying to get this finished. I misspelled it. It's Nested Dreams with an S. So my bad.
Okay, that was enigmatic. So what the pluck?
With the pluck, yeah. So you play as this character. She's a punk duck rocker, and so
Punk duck rocker.
yeah, she's a
I
so
think
she's into
I
punk rock.
for this.
And so basically, you play as this character. We call her Nikki, and she traverses all these worlds, and basically just trying to get back home. And um, I actually started development on this game right around before the Sinistar stuff and all that happened. And so when I started realizing like, hey, I got to make the Sinistar documentary because of it felt like it was really important to do. I decided I have to shelve this, and so I reluctantly put Nested Dreams on the back burner. But I'm really glad I did that in the long haul, again, not only because of the boost of confidence from working on the restoring the code base, but also just like it made me and chauffeur like really work on the story, and we came up with something that is I'm pretty happy with, pretty confident with. And while the gameplay is not groundbreaking or innovative like Sinistar, I do think that we have a story that's worth telling regardless. And I feel and there's going to be a lot of my music, our music's going to be in it, and we've already been doing a lot of art assets and stuff. So it's still in the very early stages, but I'm really happy with it. So thanks for showing it on the show.
Yeah, we got plenty of contacts. You could run it by, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So even if it's just
What's the genre?
it's you could kind of equate it to like a top down platformer, kind of like Earthbound.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
you know, it's similar, and it's similar like like Earthbound or like Yume Nikki, that sort of thing. But it's there's going to be again like or there's another game that came out recently that we really liked called ENA Dream Barbecue. or Ina Dream Barbecue. That one very very bizarre, weird game, but it's there's like, think of it almost like Ducks with David Lynch with punk rock music. That's kind of what this game is. Just this like abstract stuff. But this ENA Dream Barbecue, if you haven't seen it, it's a really bizarre game, but it's very psychedelic, surreal. There's like 2D characters in a 3D world. There's all this. It's very trippy stuff, but it's got a great soundtrack too.
Wow, this is overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, and that's, I believe that's free. But yeah, it's got a lot of it's like a first person, and you just walk around and stuff, and going on these various missions and stuff. But there's some cool animation and stuff. And again, like I said, the music is a highlight for sure. Well, I don't know what's in the trailer. I don't remember what was in the trailer. I remember the gameplay. There was some really, it's again very surreal, maybe a little more surreal than what the vibe that we're trying to go for with Nested Dreams, but there's definitely kind of that vibe for sure. So
that sounds cool. Yeah, I like the trailer.
Thank you.
Nested Dreams concept too, I think, is interesting, because that's like when you wake up in a dream, and or you think you realize you're dreaming, and you wake up, but you're really not awake. You're still in the dream.
Right.
Like,
and that's why the plural is so important, because it's like, yeah, you're traversing these multiple worlds, and you're like, almost like, like nested references and coding, or just like Inception, you're just layer after layer after layer after layer. And you kind of get lost, and you're trying, you get lost in the vibe and the whole abstract nature of everything, the atmosphere, So we have a lot of really cool ideas and stuff. And I think that, even if it's just a non-commercial like thing, or you just release it, it's just something for me to make, and it's just fun to do. So that's the main thing about it.
But a few million wouldn't hurt.
No, it wouldn't.
I just think it would have been fun to talk to like Notch, and he was working on the Minecraft back.
Oh, right.
Like, because they would have been like, I don't think anybody's really gonna care about this. It's just something I'm doing for fun.
Right.
Public domain, and just no. Actually, you never know what's gonna take off. Which is one of the themes that runs through this doc, and I've heard elsewhere, just how many times they'd have these games at a convention or at these expos, and they'd be looking at something like Robotron or Sinistar or even Pac-Man, and think, nobody's going to want to play this. Who want to play Pac-Man? Pole position. Now that's that's a game. All right, Max. So I'll let you get going. That was a fun one. This is your Bandcamp page here, right?
Yes.
I do have trouble with this one though. I don't think this is old school punk.
Of all the tracks you had to play, man,
I mean, okay, you did talk about sex festivals and okay, but yeah, I just having a little fun with you. But
no worries. Yeah. But yeah, the ambient arcade music actually has music from the Sinistar documentary. So that's actually got like a couple of the unique tracks. This is a little bit more like,
is it more standard?
Yeah, I would say that.
I didn't realize I should have known you did music.
Yeah, all the music in the documentary is me as well. So it was, I went through the archives, and there's music in there from when I was 16 and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff in there that's actually really old. So
I'm a big fan of Tangerine Dream.
Oh yeah. I need to listen to more of their stuff, frankly, because they're.
What's your best? Do you have a
Oh God. Um,
A lot of
that
stuff. Wow. Okay.
yeah.
Like where does somebody start if they want
Well, Eclipse.
clips?
I'm all over the place, right?
Oh, it's a whole
Eclipse
album.
album.
Wow.
And this was kind of like my magnum opus with like the Metroid Prime music. This is kind of like my tribute to a Metroid Prime album. It's like, what if there was another, Metroid Prime game, or just music inspired by Kenji Yamamoto's work from the Metroid Prime trilogy.
I'll
So
listen
there's
to it
a
a couple
lot of the
seconds.
same instruments and the composition techniques and everything that he used. So yeah, this one's boss music, so it's got that energetic vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're trying to get the idea. It's
That is badass. So that's like boss music for a game that just only existed in your mind at this point. Wow. I like the little.
yeah,
So it sounds kind of like almost like a Trent Reznor thing, but then you put in the little video game sounds in there. That is
yeah. I
awesome.
and and so they were definitely an inspiration for stuff like this for sure. And um yeah, it was again, I wanted, it's like I've always been a big fan of that Metroid Prime music, and so I wanted to like, do a tribute album. And I'm really, that was kind of like, you know, like a culmination of all the stuff that I learned about, from researching, Metroid Prime music and stuff, which is kind of like what I'm known for before I started doing the Sinistar stuff. So that was like, again, that same kind of obsessive attention to detail of like researching synthesizers, and that's a whole nother ball of wax right there. That since we're running out of time, I won't bore you with the minutia of those details. But yeah, it's that same kind of like
So
obsessive.
you were really into this Metroid Prime game.
I was, yeah, it was a pretty big thing for me for a while. But yeah, again, Metroid Prime 2 is great, and I've also done videos on the Prime games as well, especially the sound design. Um,
It's
because there's
basically on the Wii, right? Because that seemed like I played this on the Wii.
yeah, well, there was Metroid Prime trilogy for the Wii, so they took
Oh
all
yeah,
three
that's what I
games.
played. It came like in a metal can.
Yep, yep.
Yeah,
That's the collectible one too.
yeah, I love this. I've always been a fan of these Metroid games.
Well, they're great. They're
I was
great.
curious how they went from 2D to 3 or 3D to back to the side scrolling.
It's yeah, it's they did that was really daunting, like that's a whole retro studios history, and how they took that daunting task of like taking a 2D game, and then taking it into 3D. Um
They did a great job.
yeah, yeah, they really did. It's I love, and because I play like some of the like Metroid Dread, and I enjoyed it. I liked it, but there was just something about it that I felt like it just didn't capture that same energy as I did with like the Metroid Prime games, but maybe that's just the nostalgia goggles. But
Well, are you going to do some more documentaries after this one for the? You probably get
yeah.
this ask all this all the time, right? You're gonna do Defender, you're gonna do Jousters or something.
I've thought about it for sure, and
You know what you could do?
was that
I remember, you know who Lord British is?
Yeah. Ultima, right?
Yeah, Ultima series. So he's one. I've talked to him about this a few times. He was. I don't know if he's still looking for somebody, but he was looking for an archivist for a while because he's
Oh,
basically one of these guys that's kept everything.
oh, gotcha.
So he's just got, everything anybody could ever want to know, all the concept art, all everything for like all those Ultima games and Ultima
Wow.
Online and all the stuff at Origin. So I bet there's probably a 4 or 5 hour documentary. There might be a whole Netflix series in that.
Right, right.
Because you got a couple years you could dedicate to it, right?
Yeah, that's oof. Just thinking about it. But
Yeah, I was like, man, I guess I could probably get a sabbatical and go down there and just because you'd probably need several months just to like go through it all, right? And sift it, sort it.
yeah, I mean that I think that's one of the reasons why this documentary came out as well as it did is because of the amount of time that went into it. It was a slow cooker, right? And being able to that's a huge time investment, and again, juggling day job and my personal life and everything, that definitely contributed to making the thing.
So you
I would have done the Sinistar stuff a lot quicker if it wasn't for real life stuff, but it is what it is. But
you just put it out for free.
yeah, because it's
How are you making money?
well, that's why I have the day job. But
Oh, you could. Well, I guess you even have the ads turned on for the.
no, I purposely turned off the monetization on it because I just didn't want to. I've already been dealing with stuff. Nintendo reached out to me a couple years ago, and their lawyers and stuff, and told me to take down a couple of videos, and it was a pretty um, painful experience, frankly, and because I was like being a fan, and I had worked really hard to put that music up, and you see how obsessive I am. You see this is like a passion thing. I genuinely love this stuff, and to kind of have Nintendo, harass me like that. I understand it's their intellectual property, and I respect that. And but it kind of it burned me a little bit, and it made me wake up and understand, like, hey, this isn't your stuff. And then it's kind of one of the reasons why I'm working on Nested Dreams is to kind of like, yeah, my whole life I've been, I'm really grateful for what I did with Sinistar. I think it's amazing, and I'm really happy with it. But if anything, it's only encouraged me to even pursue my own stuff and make my own stuff. Like what Sam Dicker said, in his interview is like, make something better. And I feel that that's pretty much inspired me to do that and pursue that with my own things.
A lot of inspirational stuff in this. Like RJ Michael too. I thought he
Yeah.
had he's like, I just a kid from Chicago, and
Yeah, I had to include that. That was such a like when I saw that clip from the Amiga stuff, I'm like, yeah, because I feel the same way, frankly. I'm just this guy that
I
just
bet
came
you
out
could
of
do a
nowhere.
I bet if you did another one of these and you did like a Kickstarter page, and
Yeah,
you could probably do.
yeah, no, I
Although
think
I can't advise that anymore because I've had too many people on the show that have been like, "Oh, that was the worst thing I ever did."
you win some, you lose some, right?
Well, I think the problem is you become beholden to the people that gave you the money, and you're
Mm-hmm.
never
Mm-hmm.
satisfied. Plus, like you say, you build this, it's your baby, it's all you. You don't want to feel this sense of obligation and responsibility to all these other people, right? That
Right, right. And that's one of the
you
reasons
got
why.
your vision, damn it.
Yeah. Yeah, when you take on a publisher and you're trying to make a product and you're again, like you said, you're being responsible for all these people that are giving you money and stuff. It's very daunting, very stressful, and it kills a lot of the fun out of developing software. And I've seen it happen actually very recently, of seeing projects dying and stuff of because of just what's going on and everything. And it only affirms for me so much more that the industry's changing and the way things are being distributed are changing, and that's why I'm doing this whole Nested Dreams thing by myself with my spouse. Just we're self-releasing it on itch.io and maybe it goes on Steam. I don't know. I don't know if it's even ever gonna touch consoles. I don't know, but I just feel like it just needs to exist. It just needs to be out there and in the world, and even if it just 5 people play it, that's all that matters to me, man. I just want to make something that I'm proud of, just like I did with the documentary.
Well, it's good to me. I did a itch.io thing too. I don't know what your experience is going to be like. Oh, you really, I mean, I have so much appreciation now for marketing people,
Right.
people that can do that work.
Right.
I can't. Oh my God, just screaming like, please guys, just go look at the game. Look at a screenshot of the thing I made, please.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it's just I don't know what it takes, but I think the itch.io probably is a good platform, at least, as a way to, I don't know. You have to keep me posted on how this goes.
I will
What I've been
because
told is you put it on itch.io, and then if it gets some traction there, then you could put it on Steam.
right.
But I don't know. I mean, maybe you're better off starting with the Steam.
Yeah, it's really hard to say. I want to say with Acrolite, there was like a demo. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was an itch.io demo first, and then then you can now wishlist it on Steam. So yeah, there's definitely again, like I said, the stuff's changing, and so I'm just trying to figure out like what's the best avenue to distribute this stuff. And from what I've been looking at, it seems like it's itch. So
It probably is. I probably just messed it up. I remember when I was putting it on itch, there was a stupid box about well, there's a couple things that threw me for a loop. One was, do you have any, I forget exactly how it was worded, but I thought it was asking me, is there like violence in this game? Is there, I thought it was basically asking me, is this product okay for small kids?
Oh, right.
I was thinking, no, it's got like guns, and I didn't have anything sexy or anything in the game, but I wasn't sure. So I thought, well, just to be on the safe side, I'll say it's not suitable for kids.
Right.
I think that was really dumb.
Oh no.
What they did was they put me in this sex category.
Oh no.
And there, I'm like, I clicked one day as like what related games, and I'm like, what? Oh my God! What am? Oh, there's a game with this stuff. But don't do that. There's my advice, Max. Just make sure.
That's
in the right boxes. But okay, well, yeah. Good luck. Keep me posted. Maybe we can have you back on when the game's. How long you think it'll be before we?
But my spouse estimates 2 years, but
2 years?
I think I have honestly no idea, but I feel we're finally out of that, like, okay, it's not a bare game engine anymore, right? So now it's like we're finally, I feel like
kind of got animations and cutscenes and
right. Yeah, so I feel like it's finally
what code are you using, Unity or something for this, or what?
Godot. We're using the Godot engine, which is nice and open source, and it's been gaining a lot of traction. And 1 second, my cat.
Okay, yeah, we need to wrap that. I'm gonna make a guest cameo by the cat, maybe. All right. Oh, we're not gonna bring the cat on.
Oh no.
Okay, Max. Okay, it's been fun. Let's get going. And so we'll keep an eye on that. I'll post the links to it, and everybody watch the documentary, for God's sake. Even if you don't like Sinistar, don't even know what it is, go check it out. You'll enjoy it. Let's go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been fun.
That's all for this. I think I overdid that. That's all for this week's episode of should I call it SynaMax Chat? I hope you guys enjoyed that. I mean, so I wasn't kidding, right? And it is unbelievable. You know, I remember when I was doing Dungeons and Desktops, and really a lot of these videos for Matt Chat, sometimes I'll be looking to get a little gameplay footage, maybe even get a game running, to do a show on it, or just get a few little clip from it or something. And sometimes that takes me days. I remember some of these episodes, nobody will ever know. I've probably forgotten myself just how much work it was to find those ROMs, to get them working in some wonky, poorly supported emulator. God knows how close you are to any kind of authentic experience. So, you know, that's tough enough. You know, but to even imagine going into source code files and recompiling stuff, I mean, my God. I have a level of respect for Max. It's just off the scale for what he has done here. So anyway, I hope you liked that video. You know what else who else I have respect for is you. Yes, you beautiful patrons, or as I rightfully call you, ratrons, over there on the Patreon channel, or Patreon page, I should say, supporting this show financially. Now you might be asking yourself, how can I be so cool? How can I be as cool as those guys that support Matt Chat? I'd like to do that too. I don't want to be left out here. And what do? Look, it's not hard. It's fun. It's easy. Come on. There's a link in the show notes called the Patreon page. Click on that little bad boy in a couple of minutes, couple of bucks, and you're good to go. And then you'll experience the awesomeness that is the full Matt Chat experience. So don't wait. You'll forget to do it. Just pause the video, pop over there, set that up, and then come back and enjoy what we like to call that news from the Matt Cave. All right, what do we got? News. Snooze the news. No, we do not. We go to Sobchak. Talking about a game called The Blood of Dawn Walker. The Blood of Dawn Walker. This is an upcoming dark fantasy. Oh boy. Because we need more dark fantasy. This one's an action RPG. Oh, Strike 2. From Rebel Wolves. A studio founded by ex-Witcher 3 devs. Okay. Well, that's a positive, I suppose. Set in a cursed 14th century Carpathian kingdom, you play as Cohen, a half-human, half-vampire warrior with 30 days to save his family from damnation. Well, that's a cool story. I like that. You remember those Vampire the Masquerade games? Let's see. By day, wield sword and blood magic. By night, embrace vampiric powers like wall running and shadow stepping, with dynamic day-night gameplay, directional combat, and a rich open world inspired by Eastern European folklore. Blood of Dawn Walker and promises a gritty, immersive RPG experience. Coming to 2026 to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. So thank you. So apparently a lot of the guys over there at Matt Chat are not impressed with what they've seen so far, but you know, it looks pretty. I'm not the biggest fan of the Witcher games. You know, you can't like everything. They're okay. You know, like the first one's probably my favorite, but yeah. So apparently some of these guys are working on this other project, and yeah, who knows? It might turn out to be better. We shall see. All right, next up, I think this is also from Sobchak. Josh Sawyer. You remember him? He's been on the show before. He did an interview, and the takeaway from that was, I quote, "I don't feel good about the industry, but I feel good about the ability for people to create games that can find an audience." All right, what's he going on about there? Josh, what are you on about? Well, he's complaining about crunch culture, blockbuster-driven risk aversion. Blockbuster-driven risk aversion. Yeah, that. The word blockbuster threw me off for a second. Okay, toxic online communities. We don't have that problem over at MadChat. The indie landscape remains a bright spot. He highlights how passionate creators empowered by digital platforms and crowdfunding are building innovative niche experiences that resonate deeply with players. I hate that word niche, Like, oh yes, it's not that we're unpopular, it's just that we're very, very niche. While the mainstream industry popular may feel stale or toxic, Sawyer believes the future of games lies in the freedom and creativity of independent developers. Well, I've been making that argument for years now. If a game's got a list of credits that rivals or even doubles or triples a typical Hollywood Marvel movie, no, there's no personality in that. How could there be? It's just, by the time you got that many people with their hands in the pot, their hands on the tiller, however you want to say it, there's not going to be any soul in that game. It's just too big. So I fully agree. Once you get to an indie team, and I'm not talking about a one-person, two-person gig necessarily, but let's say 20 or 30 people. Seems about the sweet spot to me with a lot of these games where you still get the commercial quality or near commercial quality, but also that love and humanity. So that's what I look for. All right, and then penultimately, that's a word for you. Penny writes in about Nexus mods. Oh God, what about Nexus mods? Well, they're going out of business. They've been sold by, I guess they haven't gone out of business. They've been sold by founder Robin, quote, DorkOne Scott. That sounds like a fascinating dude. DorkOne. Would you have to call him DorkOne? Kind of old DorkOne. DorkOne. He's going to find me and leave a comment. He did that site for 24 years. He's stepping down. Why? Well, why? Good question. Concerns about monetization surfaced. So after 24 years, concerns about... Okay. The new owners have pledged to keep... Who are the new owners? Let's see. Chosen. All right. Apparently that Chosen is a team of long-time community members. Yeah. So this might not be so bad. So anyway, this group has pledged to keep mods free, reduce ads over time. Reduce ads? So they got monetization problems, and they want to reduce ads. Oh, okay. And maintain the site's core values. Scott will stay on in an advisory role to ensure a smooth transition. So I guess we'll see how this goes. I hope it goes well, because I'm often on that site looking for the mods, as you know. All right, and then a little last bit of news, something I've scrounged up. So Microsoft's new Xbox. Got some details about that. So the interesting thing is they're going to ditch the, I don't know what they call it, Microsoft Store, Xbox Store, Game Store, whatever. They're going to get away with that walled garden approach. So I think they'll still have their store. But the news is they're going to open it up so other vendors can come in. Steam, Epic. So I mean, isn't pretty cool, right? You could just open up your Steam account on your Xbox and it'd all be the same sort of interface. Your games would be all there. That alone is something interesting for me. They got itch.io on there as well. And Epic. Oh, they got Epic! Yeah! Actually, don't care about Epic. It blurs the line between console and PC. Add in rumors of a dedicated Xbox handheld. You guys tired of those? I can't stand these handhelds. Don't be walking around with one of those. I'm just kidding, guys. I don't really care. You got the boldest shake-up to console gaming in years. This isn't just a new Xbox. It's Microsoft redefining what a console is. Who writes this stuff? I think they're going with AMD hardware in this. I was wondering, I saw AMD's stock had like surged recently, and I'm like, what the hell? And I thought NVIDIA was the big chip maker on the block, but apparently AMD, you know, Xbox, it's like Microsoft has ever chosen badly before, you know, it was an HD TV instead of a Blu-ray. Remember that? Anyway, this might be cool. All right, let's wrap it up with a quote. And I was looking for quotes and about Sinistar. Not a whole lot of stuff, but the name of another science fiction series came up, and I thought this was an interesting. I thought this would be a little trivia for you. So I'll read the quotation and then see if you can figure out who said this or what this is from. It goes something like this: "We are the pure, the perfect. All that is organic must be cleansed." All right, you're probably thinking Borg from Star Trek. And you would be, well, not you. I get it. You're a nerd. You know where it's from. Not you. I'm talking to these other folks. If you thought it was the Borg, you are wrong. If you thought it was Fred Saberhagen's Berserker series, you're pretty doggone cool. All right, let's wrap this up. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And I'll see you guys next week.